What's up, good people? What's up, good people? It's your boy, Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr., the Impact Builder, coming to you with another episode of Upwards Conversations, brought to you by Upwards Magazine. And if you don't know, Upwards Magazine is dedicated to inspiring journeys of people from all walks of life living in all areas of the world. Each cover in the magazine focuses on people who often against great odds inspire hope in others through their story or their journey. The cover story is complemented by various sections such as entrepreneurship, education, art, music, folk world, lifestyle, sports, and spirituality, all of which highlight positivity. And that's what we're about. We're about bringing you positive people having a great impact in the community, for the community, and about the community. And this episode is no different than any of the others. And it's going to encompass, like I said, entrepreneurship, the church, impact, education, art. And y'all see, y'all feel what I'm saying once we get into this conversation with this young man that's to the opposite side of me here, because we have such a rich conversation when it comes to what he's doing with his church, but then also what the community, what the church as a whole can be doing. So I can't wait for y'all to hear this conversation, because we done already started. I'm sorry, we just trying to catch y'all up on the conversation that we've been having here. But I'm gonna start off by letting him introduce himself, and then we'll get into our conversation about the great things that he has going on, and then even the community as a whole, the church, all of those good things, the entrepreneurship. We're going to be talking about a myriad of different things. But I want to introduce you all to Pastor Cedric Nelms, who is he on the left. He on the left coast. He on the left coast out there. So he a couple of hours behind us, but he on the left coast. So I'm gonna cut him some slack today, since he out there in that LA area, taking in all that good sunshine all the time. So Pastor Nelms, how you doing, brother? How you feeling, man?
Hey man, Tony Tone said it never rains in Southern California.
I know that's right.
That's what they tell me, man. That's what they tell me.
Say my niece lives out there in LA, man. So I'm just like,
you already know.
I see why she want to live out there, but I'm like, yeah.
She don't even want to point. She don't even want to go east, man, when she come out here, man. I tell you, LA is honestly, I could say LA is do or die. Either you gonna make it or it's gonna make you. Either way, you gonna be changed and transformed, man. So I'm glad to be here with you, man. Glad to be in this space. You and I, we have not met in person, but we had the same kindred spirit. We brothers, man, and I'm always excited to be with you and hanging out with you, man. But my name is Cedric Nelms. I am wow. Somebody asked me yesterday, well, what do you do? And I just had to take a breath and say, okay, yeah, what do I do? I pastor a local church here, a church plant that my wife and I started some 12, 13 years ago, Chosen Generation Fellowship Church. I am the founder and executive director of Community Bridge Connectors Resource Center. I am also founder and executive director of Legacy Bridge Community Development Corporation. I work as a community organizer and civic engager in the community. That's actually that's what they pay me for. And yeah, I'm a husband of we'll have 23 years in the books come next month. And I'm a father of 5 beautiful, rambunctious, and uniquely crafted children, 3 boys and 2 girls. So.
Absolutely. I love it, man. I love it, man. I love it there. So I want you to, if you can, and I want to start the audience off, the listening audience off, the viewing audience off. You gave us just a little bit about the background and everything like that. But what got you started in ministry and entrepreneurship, which we'll get into a little further, that journey. First, let's talk about the ministry, because ministry is a calling. What was it that got you started to answer that call? Because I know I hear ministers, all pastors always say they got called to the ministry. What was it that made you say yes when you got that call?
Man, I think I may have gotten a call a lot earlier, and I was just a little bit too much of a knucklehead, and I thought that I was faster than anything. So I ran from it for a long time. I think I actually probably got some sense of a calling
Okay.
probably around my college days, but I lived my best life in college, going to one of the most premier historically Black colleges and universities in these United States, Morehouse College, the Morehouse College. But I got my calling, man, after it seemed to be around the same time that my wife and I started dating. And I was in church and, was moving and doing things in the church. And I sat down one day and I wrote a paper. Looking back on it, it was really a sermon, but I wrote a paper on Luke chapter 15, dealing with the lost coin, the lost sheep, and the prodigal son. All of that is in Luke 15. And so the title of that sermon was Lost and Found. And I went through actually exegeting or extracting from the text about how the Lord finds those things that are lost, that he goes after passionately and consistently and committedly after those things that are lost. And I submitted that to the pastor I was sitting under, and I was immature and didn't really understand what I was doing, because I submitted it and I forgot to put my name on it. And so he stood over the pulpit and said, I received this sermon, and he knew who it was from. He said, I received this sermon from somebody, and they didn't put their name on it. So if they don't claim it, I'm gonna have to preach it myself.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
I went to him and said, that was me, Pastor. And he was like, oh, okay, well, what does all this mean? And so just kind of started going through that process, and wind up going to a place here in Los Angeles, out in San Pedro. San Pedro is one of our beach cities.
Okay.
Because that's where my wife and my two older kids were staying at the time. And I went out there, man. We have a thing called the Korean Bell, which is something that it's an actual bell that was donated when the U.S. and Korea kind of made this agreement. So it's a nice, beautiful bell. Went out there, man. It overlooks the Pacific Ocean, man. And went out there, and I was just praying because I was dealing with some struggles and just life situations. Went out there and prayed, man. And the Lord said, if you go, I'll be with you. And I'm like, okay, well, where am I going? The Lord said, if you go, I'll be with you. And at that instant, I started thinking about all the things that had happened in my life and how he had been crafting and positioning me to go into the ministry. This was the confirmation, because I think sometimes people say that God called them, but some people just went. There's a difference between a calling and you just going because that's what you want to do. When I announced my calling to the church, my mother told me afterwards that my great-grandfather told her while she was pregnant with me, he told her, the child that you're carrying is going to be a minister, and he's going to be the minister of this family.
Wow.
She had never told me that before until I announced my calling. So that was the confirmation that it was, you know, what we say, it's a no-brainer that I was supposed to be doing what I'm doing. So,
Yeah.
you know,
And that's just like you were saying. It's amazing sometimes how we, we see how God orders our steps, and
yes,
how we have this destiny that we can't run from.
right.
We can. It's almost like always think about Jonah.
Yep.
Jonah he could run all he wanted to, but he was going to go to Nineveh.
No matter how
Nineveh
much
is
you
really.
try to screw it up, God is always, you know what I'm saying? It's like, no matter what you do, you can try to screw it up, man, and mess it up and destroy it. But God just, no, mm-mm. It's like you said, it's your destiny. And when it's your destiny,
It's
how do you,
absolutely.
how do you deter that?
Yeah.
Man,
Absolutely. You really don't. You really don't. You really can't deter destiny because it's going to happen one way or the other.
right,
We don't understand it. We don't know that it's our destiny, of course. But like you
right,
were saying, as you reflected on what it was and everything that you've gone through, it led you to that very the bell where you were. It led you to that point where you were going to understand where it was that God was calling you to, where He was taking you from that point on. So
right.
that's awesome. Now the second part of that was the entrepreneurship part of you in there actually at that time. Was that something that came to you kind of after?
Yeah, it kind of came after, man. It was one of those things. It was one of those things, Dr. Leroy, when I look back on it, man, I just always knew. I never could put words to it. I
Mhm.
just always knew it was something that I was supposed to be doing that was
Mhm.
supposed to be special.
Mhm.
Um, and I always tried to kind of push that away because I thought that was a little bit too arrogant, too self-centered.
Mhm.
Um, but I started feeling it around the time soon after my wife and I had been married for a while. And I remember telling her one time, because I was working, majored in biology with a minor in psychology. So I worked in the pharmaceutical biotech industry. I did quality assurance, quality control, validation. What else did I do? Research and development. I did all these different things. And one day I told my wife, I said, God didn't create me to work.
Mhm.
And when I said that, she kind of looked at me. She was like, okay, so now where's this going? I said, no. I said, no, it's not that I want to be a bum or anything. It's just that I really felt in my spirit, God did not create me to work to build out someone else's dream and somebody
Absolutely.
else's
Yeah.
destiny. God created me to develop and to be a visionary of a dream and of the visions he was giving me so that it could impact others. And so once I started feeling that way, I opened myself to, okay, Lord, show me what that means. Anybody can go, not anybody, but people can go out and buy a liquor store. People can go out and buy become involved in a McDonald's franchise or a Chick-fil-A franchise, or you got folks who franchise and buy into franchises all day long, Pizza Hut, Domino's. And so what, I didn't know if it was that or if it was something that the Lord had placed inside of me to really craft and to build out from an entrepreneurial perspective. And yeah, that's how we got here. It's from going through that process, man, and going through that, going through some ebbs and flows. It's funny, my wife and I sit up and laugh now because there was a lot of entrepreneurial stuff that we tried to throw our hat in the ring on. We did Amway for a minute.
You going way back with that one.
Man, we did Amway. She did Avon. She was getting ready to get into Mary Kay.
Mhm.
At one time we had a very thriving financial services business. We were and we still are part of Primerica.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Okay. Okay. Mhm.
PFS. So it's like we we've always tried to do this entrepreneurial thing. And so it took me some time to figure out that what God really had designed for me was really for me, and that I had to be the Nehemiah.
Mm.
I had to be this different version of Nehemiah. And how do you develop something that is truly impactful for the community? So, yeah.
And I love that. And like you, and I know I felt like this when I was in corporate America. I never felt like I fit. It was
Right.
all, I mean, it was like you were saying, I was like, I would know I was created to do and be more. And I remember telling my buddy, I was working, he and we became friends working at the hotel, together. Because we both started off as I was the assistant general manager and he was the manager in training. But I remember he and I, after we had been there for a minute, and they were working us to the bone, man. I'm talking, we were doing, easily between 65, 75 hours a week, each of us.
Right.
And I remember telling him, I'm like, dude, I'm not doing this. I'm not gonna kill myself for somebody else. Like you were
Right.
saying, I'm just not, I'm like, I'm not gonna do it. I said, if I'm gonna be doing it, I said, I'm gonna be doing it for myself. I feel much better doing that for myself, saying, hey, I don't mind putting in 70, 75 hours, because that's me.
Right.
That's mine. But for somebody else, to make somebody else, I was like, no, I said, that's not me. And from that, I think we as entrepreneurs, we think different. We think
Right.
different. We just have that visionary type of mindset, that innovativeness, with that creativity, where it's always something new, more, and everything like that. And yeah, I think we got the benefit of the experience,
Right.
for what we had to go through, what we did. But at the end of the day, it was like, yeah, I've got to do my own thing, because if I don't, I know I wouldn't have been happy. I was miserable. I
Right.
was I was miserable. I was just like, I was like, I can't. I had one job that I literally hated waking up in the morning to go to.
Right.
And I was
Yeah.
just like, I said, I can't do this. I was just like, that's unhealthy.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not. I said, yeah. I said, it's time for me. I've got to go, and I've got to, find what it is that I need, that I should be doing, what I am doing. And that started me on having my own business and developing my own business from that. So yeah, I totally agree with you. That not feeling, it didn't fit. It was like there was something more out there that you were being called to, and others that are entrepreneurs will feel, I believe, that they'll feel like they're being called to, in order to be able to do that. I want you to answer this, and I don't know if it applies to, if the one word can be used to describe both, or you give me a word that describes each of your ministry, if you had to describe your ministry in one word, and then your entrepreneurship, business, your enterprise. If you had to use one word to describe them, would it be the same word, or what would it be that you would use to describe?
Ah, yeah. I mean, I think if I was to describe the ministry and my entrepreneurial work, the term, and we use it in the naming of our CDC and of our resource center, bridge. One of the things I was told very early on in ministry was God had uniquely gifted me to be able to engage both the youth and the young people
Mhm.
and the seniors. So
Okay.
I've God uniquely designed me to wherein I can speak to both in a message, in a sermon.
Mm.
And so the term I would use is called bridge.
Mm.
Bridge, to be able to bridge the gap between generations, to be able to be a bridge to connect people to resources and other people.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are, people have reached out and said, hey, um, it's funny to me because sometimes people say, "Hey, do you know so and so?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do. Man, I saw him or I saw her at this event, and it was interesting because I said something, and they were like, "Oh yeah, that's like my good friend Pastor Cedric. Oh, you know Pastor Cedric? Yeah, I know Pastor." So, and people are like, "Man, matter of fact, she's a cousin of mine, and she said to me, she said, you know, you know everybody." I said, "No, I don't know everybody." My kids say that, "You know everybody." I said, "No, I don't know everybody. It's just that I know who I know," if that
Mm,
makes sense. And so
I like that.
being a bridge, our church is a bridge between different types of people, different backgrounds of people, but we're a family.
Mm,
Our nonprofit and our community development corporation is a bridge because we're trying to connect people to resources. We're trying to connect people to what it is that they need. We're trying to connect people to each other and to networks. And so bridge, that's the term that I would use.
I like that. I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a nice term for it. For it. Now, tell us. I want you to tell us about the ministry. Tell us about Chosen Fellowship Church and the ministry that you have and everything that you have going on with the church.
As far as like the church and some of the things that we do as the church.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
In the
no, I
community.
mean, our church is one to where, and we have been able to over the years, we've been able to be, and we're trying to work on getting better at it too. Dr. Leroy is trying to figure out how to become. We're really at this stage trying to figure out what is our DNA.
Okay.
What is going to be our it. When you look at, um, one of the heavy hitters we got out here. He's an elder as far as I'm concerned, Bishop uh, 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 um, uh, Bishop Kenneth Omer over at
Mhm,
Faithful Central.
mhm,
His church is a Bible believing, a Bible teaching church. When you look at Pastor Freddie Haynes down in Texas,
Texas, yeah.
Freddie is very engaging with social justice.
Yeah. Yeah.
My man who fellow Morehouse brother, Pastor Otis Moss III,
Yes.
church is
Powerful. Yeah.
very
Yeah.
powerful,
Yeah.
but very what I call uh, theologically sound, but very connected to African American history
You're
and
right.
and whatnot. So we're trying to really craft our DNA and find out who we are. We've been able to engage and do some powerful stuff over the last 13 years of our existence, really over the last 3 to 5 years. We've gotten connected to organization called Care Portal. Care Portal is pretty much it is a centering. It's a portal. So it's a database that is used by social workers and folks who are in that space to connect families in need and foster families to faith-based organizations. So connecting them to churches to help supply the need. So it's a unique way on how to do evangelism. So we've been able to bless folks with beds. We've been able to bless folks with refrigerators. We've been able to bless folks with, we helped a lady get her single mom, get her car out of repossession. These are all things that we did over the pandemic. The other thing that we've been able to do is we've been able to, through our resource center, we were able to connect with a local church, and we were able to feed 3,000 families, 3,000 plus families and 7,000 plus individuals with boxes of food. We've gotten connected to Children's Hunger Fund, which resources us with food to distribute to people. So those are things that we've been able to do over the last couple of years. And I think it works for our church, but we're really trying to figure out if that's the space we need to be in, because now I'm in this space of being a community organizer and a civic engager that works on educational equity. And so education is big, especially here in California. Education is something that when you look at it, there's an achievement gap between certain certain folks of a different hue and folks that look like me. We figured out before the pandemic, there's a Black achievement gap when it comes to education, and Black students were performing low, but then the Black students were not being engaged properly. And so, is that the work that my church needs to lean into, or is it more around housing? And those are things we're trying to really figure out in this season. We've done good with the social, what I would call social ministry, as far as feeding folks. We gave out 100+ backpacks. We have a back to school thing that we do every year, to where we give out 50 to 100+ backpacks every year. We have a thing where we call Thanksgiving in a box, to where we purchase turkeys, and the church comes and gives all the fixings to where, and we've been able to distribute 200+ boxes of food. And then at Christmas time, we've connected with Prison Fellowship and an organization called Angel Tree. Angel Tree is an organization that the children that are part of Angel Tree either have a parent or parents that are currently incarcerated. And so we go out and purchase. They send in what their wish list. So we become like Santa Claus. And not only do I look like the Black Santa Claus, but I actually so we go out, man, and we purchase toys, man, and we've been able to supply 100+ toys to children. So those are some of the things that we do as the church, man, and we've found success with it, and I actually see the people respond to it in a great way. So,
and I love it. And I was taking some notes as you were talking about that. But here are 4 things that I pulled out of: economics, empowering, enterprising, and education.
yeah.
That's that's DNA right there. And to me, the one that encompasses all of it, and you tell me if I'm correct with that, is enterprising.
Yes.
The enterprising gives you the economics, gives you the empowerment, it gives you the education.
Yes.
So the ministry that is enterprise.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
All right, brother, you can tell me, man. I'm gonna have to bring you and put you on the board, man. You just gave me the DNA of the church.
Yes,
man.
sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here. Absolutely. But as you were talking, that's what I was thinking about as you were saying the things that you all are involved in, but the things that you are going to be doing now and moving forward and everything. All of those things. And like you said, the foundational piece is the enterprise. That's what enterprises means. The building
Right.
out of things. And that's what you're doing. You're building not just the church yourself, but your members. You're building them to be enterprises, because if they're equipped like you're equipping them, then they become economically conscious. They understand what it is that they need to do to make the neighborhood, the communities better. Empowering, of course, that's me, is equipping. That's equipping people to be able to do what it is that they need to do and want to do. And the education piece is just giving people knowledge about what it is that they choose to do. So I think those are just some things that encompass what your chosen generation fellowship church is to me when I hear it and I think about it. So in the services that you offer, that's powerful. Oh, and can you talk about that for a minute, please? Talk about how the church as a whole, not just your particular church, how the church as a whole needs to be more economically conscious, more empowering conscious, more enterprising, and more educationally conscious, especially in this 21st century and where we are right now, coming out of the pandemic, and how important that is.
No, I mean, I think that the church it's the church had to pivot. The pandemic, and I've said this before, and I might get kickback from it, and that's okay. Church was going through an epidemic before the pandemic. People were really trying to figure out. We sustained people, but we were really struggling with trying to figure out programming, or we were struggling with how do we reach more people, or how do we go through these shifts of seeing our church go from young adult to seasoned saints. Young people were pulling away, Barna did a study on, young adults and why they were pulling away from the local church, the traditional church.
Right.
They had different reasons for why. But the pandemic caused us to pivot, man. The pandemic shut the lights off in the building. And then we had to figure out how to be the cameraman. We had to figure out how to be the production assistant. We had to figure out what proper lighting looked like. We had to figure out. I spent more time trying to figure out what my backdrop was going to look like, and what a green screen was. I didn't know anything about all that stuff, man. So how to upload on YouTube, had to sign up for a YouTube account. What is OBS, and lower third, all these things, man. That as I told somebody, man, I was Dr. Dre. I was Dr. Ced, man. Putting together the formula, man. I was like the DOC. It's the formula, man. And so really trying to figure out that. And from that, I just read a statement that said the church is trying to go back to something that's no longer there.
Can the church go back? Or should the church want to go back?
Those are two different questions.
Okay.
I'll answer it like this. My dad grew up in Houston, Texas, in 5th Ward. When he went back to find the house that he grew up in, the house is no longer there. Now it's a freeway, eminent domain. Freeways came through and took it over.
Wow.
And does he miss that house? Yes, he misses the memories of that house.
Right.
Would he want to live in that house now? No. It was a wood house that would not even sustain, I won't even say a hard rain. It won't even it wouldn't have been able to sustain a heavy mist at this point. And for some of your listeners, they may not know, it was a shotgun house. You used to call it a shotgun house, where you can look through the front door and you look right out the back door. And if you were to shoot a bullet, it would go right through and not hit anything. Shotgun house. So would my dad want to live in that house now? No. I say that to say that, can the church go back? It can, but should it go back? I don't think it should. But I do think, like when you have a house renovated, there are certain things that you should keep because they're good bones. My wife watches this show on HGTV called Good Bones, to where they go in and they find certain pieces of the house that are still good. They don't make wood like that anymore. Right. If you try to get built-ins right now, built-ins would cost you about $7 to $8 grand to put in a house. So if you have a house that has built-in bookshelves, man, you got a jewel. I do think that the church moving forward should pick certain tenements from our history.
Come on there.
To move forward. I love the Black church. I love the things about the Black church. I love choir. I love Walter Hawkins. I love Hezekiah Walker. I love that kind of stuff. So there's certain things that we should take from the old church and move it forward. But moving forward does not mean that we got to be disrespectful.
Correct.
You got to honor the former church, but realize that we've got to be innovative as we move forward, because we're dealing with a generation of young people. I got 21-year-olds that they're not as nostalgic about what was here before them. But Isaiah 49 tells us, forget the former things. I'm doing a new thing. So it's not that we have to totally render what was in the past inefficient, or we don't have to give value to it. But I think we have to move forward in a very, very innovative and creative fashion to wherein some of the things that we were trying to hold on to before the pandemic, we have to release it. You know, buildings were sold because churches could not hold on to buildings because there was nobody in the building, but the rent still need to be paid, the lights still need to get paid, the water still need to get paid. It's a new day, man. So I think we have to become very creative. That's why I moved forward with something that the Lord gave me about how to do ministry and connect it to social enterprise, because I started to see that happening to where ministries were starting to engage in social enterprise. Ministries were starting to have bakeries. Ministries were starting to have coffee shops. Ministries were starting to have schools. Ministries were starting to have senior citizen housing. My parents' church in Texas, Bethlehem, BBC for short, Pastor Michael Evans, they built senior housing, Pioneer Place, on some land that was gifted to them by a member of the church.
Awesome.
Yeah. So they were able to use that land. That Pioneer Place will be there for seniors. That revolutionizes and transforms a community, man, because now we can give people the gospel all day long. But if folks are still leaving the church every Sunday, they full on the spirit and the gospel, but they don't have anything in their refrigerator, their car is low on gas, or they don't have a car, they're scared of getting a 3-day pay and quit. You know, all these life things are going on, but the church is not addressing that. But we say that God is good. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I love that. I want you to talk about Chosen Fellowship. Chosen Generation Fellowship in that context, in the social enterprise, because I know you have some great things that are going on and how that's impacting the community that you are a part of, that you all are a part of, and then as a whole, how the church, like you just talked about, your parents' church down in Texas, the impact that the church can have as a whole in doing that social enterprising piece that we just talked about.
Oh, well, the church can be, man, the church can, that's a powerful move, man, because now you are living out what we preach about. You know, we're not the head, we're not the, you know, we're the head, not the tail. We are above and not beneath. We are a lender and not a borrower. Now we're putting that into motion to where now you are giving people space to live out what it is that God is calling them to do. Now the CEO can sit next to the construction worker and they can develop some form of how they can support each other. The car salesman or the one who owns car dealerships can now be in church with a mechanic, and they can begin to develop contracts with each other to wherein every car that's on his or her lot has to go through his or her mechanic shop. Now you're talking about the social worker being able to connect to the single mother, to wherein the social worker can provide resources to that single mother that single mother didn't have before. It's a beautiful mosaic design of how church can really be not just church, but church can really be missionary. Being a missionary means that you are in the community, that you are of the community, and that at the end of the day, you can transform the community. You know what I'm saying? And so those are some of the things that we're looking to do. Have we reached that point yet? Not at all, but we are striving to get to that point. And that's why, you know, ministry enterprise is a major thing, man. I
love it. And the one word that I think about, and I've been harping on this lately, man, is an ecosystem.
Yes.
The church becomes a hub for the community's ecosystem.
Yes.
And what it's able to do And my thing, I've been telling entrepreneurs, you want to become a part of your client's ecosystem. And that includes you as a business having your ecosystem and being a part of another business's ecosystem, like you were just talking about with the dealer, the car dealer and the mechanic. That's an ecosystem.
Ecosystem, man.
That's an ecosystem. And but I hope we as the community can get that. And
Right.
like I told you, that's what I love about the concept that you have, the ministry enterprises, the social enterprises that you all do with your church, and how innovative and creative that is. Because if I can take care of the elders in
Right.
my congregation, and I can take care of the young kids in
Right.
my generation, that becomes the cycle, because
Right.
that younger generation becomes the what becomes your your congregation through, and it just filters down,
Right. Right.
and it filters through
Right.
in between, man. So like I said, it's just, I love it. I love
Yeah.
your concept that you have. I think it's huge. I think it's impactful for the community, not just your community. I'm talking that you all are a part of, but the church community and the communities as a whole. Because
Right.
can you imagine our communities, as a whole, having that kind of system in place,
Right.
and how strong it becomes because of that, because it
Yeah.
has that hub in it.
Yeah.
And
And
like you talked about before, the mind shifting that has to take place with that.
and that's traditional church, Dr. Leroy. Back in the day, man,
Yeah.
if anything went on, you went to the church.
Yep.
When cousin Smoke would get out of jail, he'd come to Big Mama's house, and Big Mama was gonna take him where? To the
The
church.
church.
When
Yep.
when your kids were acting up, where'd you take them? To the church. If you needed a job, where'd you go? To the
Yeah.
church.
Yeah.
If you wanted to know who your alderman or your councilman or assembly person was, where did you go? To the church.
To the church.
The church was the place. If you needed something to eat,
Go to the church.
grandmama and them was always back in the kitchen, man. It was hot. They'd roll out some cornbread and some fried chicken and the coolest of Kool-Aid that you could pop at the church, man. The church was the centerpiece. You would find, if you did not have a place to stay, the church would put you up so that you didn't have to sleep on the street. These are things that, this is nothing new, but we have to be innovative now, because now we still have to do some of those same things, but we got to get really innovative and to find out what is the DNA, what is the common thread that runs through your ministry. Maybe it's not a K through 12 school, but maybe you need to have a trucking school. Maybe you teach people how to, because distribution changed during the pandemic. They need truck drivers. So maybe it's that, and a lot of times our men and women who are returning citizens from incarceration, they sometimes can't get jobs like you or I would get, but they can get a trucking job if they don't mind driving. Trucking is a good paying job. It provides a certain style of living that you can't sneeze at that. So maybe it's a trucking school. Maybe it's maybe it's a culinary school, to where you teach people how to cook and how to prepare meals. We're living longer. We got seniors who need meal prep. So how do you get some young folks that want to cook and be in the kitchen? You teach them how to meal prep, and then they are able to meet the needs of our seasoned saints. So it's different ways. You just got to figure out what's the pulse of the ministry, and what is the pulse of your community, that you can answer the needs of that community.
Yeah, I hope y'all getting this. Because this is some powerful and rich information that Pastor Nelms is giving to us today. Pastor Nelms, what does Chosen Generation Fellowship mean to you? When I say that, what does that mean to you? What does that name and that term mean to you?
Chosen Generation Fellowship Church, man. Chosen Generation comes out of 1 Peter 2:9.
Okay.
1 Peter chapter 2, verses 9 and 10, where it talks about a royal priesthood, where it talks about you were once a people that were without grace, now you have grace. And so Chosen Generation for me is one to wherein God has blessed us, and it's not exclusive, but it's actually inclusive, for us to answer the call of understanding that we've been chosen by God. I think one of the things that we struggle with, all of us, at some level, struggle with being chosen. You know, I can remember when I wasn't picked on certain teams. You know, I can remember when I didn't win certain elections in school. I can remember when, when I was dating certain girls saying that they didn't want to go out. I remember, you know what I'm saying? So it's something about being chosen. It's something about being adopted into the family of kingdom-minded principles. It's something about God saying, you were all of this before, but I'm going to give you the grace to wherein you become part of this kingdom of people that you will be granted a certain level of glorification to where you'll be with me for eternity. That's an honor. And so Chosen Generation for me is really, really, it's a church, man. It's the name of the church that lets people know, if no other time, you're being affirmed. When Jesus was baptized by John the Baptist, when he came out of the water, the heavens opened up, doves dropped, and God said, this is my son in whom I'm well pleased. One of the struggles for people, one of the struggles for Black men, one of the struggles I think all of us suffer is affirmation. Nobody has, I'm not going to say nobody, for a large majority of us, we have not been told that we are seen and that we are affirmed. Chosen Generation is that space to wherein we see you and we affirm you. We love on you. You know, that's what we say. Me and Lady Karen, we're going to love on you. And because it's a family, and you got dysfunctional stuff in your family, I got dysfunctional stuff in my family, but that don't stop them from being cousins. Right. That's just all crazy cousin, but I love my cousin. That's my cousin. You know what I'm saying? I'll fight you about my cousin. That's my cousin, because that's what we've been chosen to be in this family together. I'm not going to dish you. I'm just going to love you for who you are. Yeah. So that's what Chosen Generation is for us.
I love that. I want you to give, if you can, give us 3 steps the church can take to shift our communities as we move out of the pandemic. Because we talked a little bit about, kind of what needs to happen. But what are just 3 things that they can begin, that the church can begin to do, what we can begin to do to shift the community?
Wow, man, that's a heavy question. I would say, man, the first thing is we've got to change our lenses. I think we are, I'm somebody that I turned 50 a couple months ago, man, and I'm finding out that my vision is not as strong as it used to be. I used to be able to see all the way. I could see all the way to Chicago, man, from LA back in the day when I was young. These old eyes now, man, I have to move my phone in and out in the morning just to get my focus right. You know what I'm saying, man? It's rough on this side. It never rains in Southern California though, but my eyes are adjusting. We got to change our lenses, man. I think at some level we're trying to look at something through the wrong tints of lenses. So you may not be bifocals, but you need some glasses. And so when you go in to get your glasses, they tell you what intensity of lens you need. And so I think we need to change our lenses, man. We're expecting people to, and some churches still have that. And I don't want anybody to think, oh, well, he's bashing. I'm not. I just feel like there's more than one way that we're going to have to do this thing. Yeah. And everybody's not going to be able to do it the same way. So TD Jakes has a certain lens, and it works for TD Jakes. But Pastor Cedric and Chosen Generation may not have TD Jakes and Potter House lens. Our lens may be different.
But you just said something really important, because I wear glasses, been wearing glasses, and these lenses don't work for anybody but me.
Right.
They can't see. Somebody else could pick them up. They're not gonna be able to.
And will be totally blind, because those lenses won't work. They don't work. That's why when you go in to get your glasses, they set your lenses based on the strength of your eyes. And so one of the things the church has to do is find out what their lenses are. What's your lens? What is it? So it may not look like somebody else.
Right.
My church, at the end of the day, may never look like Joel Osteen's church. And that's okay. Right. Because the lens works for who I am as Cedric. That's Joel. This is Cedric. And what is God calling me to do? So that's the first thing. We got to get some, in a nutshell, we got to get our corrective lenses together.
I love that.
Number two, we have to be willing. We have to be willing to be silent more and louder results. I think sometimes, man, we can get out there and we want to be a little bit bigger than what we are.
Yep.
And sometimes we have to move in a way that is very strategic, very, very stealth-like, and make loud results. Sometimes we have to realize that what we do is not going to be on the front page of the paper, but that doesn't mean that we're not impactful. It's easier for a cruise liner. It's easier for a boat to move more than a cruise liner. Cruise liner, man, you got to turn that thing, and it might take you a minute. But we in that speedboat though, man, I'm hitting them waves and I can turn. Sometimes I can throw myself off because I'm going so fast. We have to figure out, where we are with that, and realize that we have to become more silent so that we can hear the cries of the people. We got to hear the Macedonian call that is in our community. But if we're so loud and we're talking so much, we're not going to hear what the folks are saying. It's like, and understanding that what you're listening to is not everybody else's voice, but the voice that is speaking to you. I remember going to pick up my kids, man, they would be on the playground. All these kids run around screaming, yada, yada, yada. But I could always hear my kids cry out, Daddy, Daddy. Out of all these kids, I could hear my kids. Why? Because I was attuned, my ear was attuned to their voice. Our church has to get our hearing. So not only our vision, but we got to get our hearing together so that we hear and become more silent and quiet and have louder results. Allow for God to do what God is going to do. The third thing I would say is, live in expectancy of next. Live in expectancy of next. God is going to do something miraculous, but we got to live in expectancy. It's like being pregnant. A mother knows she's carrying a baby, and she may even know the sex of that child. But until she gives birth, she doesn't know what the next stage is going to be. Birth, pregnancy can be painful. It can be joyous because everybody wants to touch your stomach and all that. But once you give birth to that child, you begin to live in the next of that child, because every year that child grows up, you experience something new. You experience something different as far as who that child is becoming. And we have to live in that as the church, live in the expectancy of next, not always think that we have the answers, or we get bored with the mundane, but live in that expectancy, man, of what is God gonna do next, and get excited about that, man.
I love that, man. That's three powerful things that you just gave right there, man. I love that. Change your lenses, silent more, louder results, and the expectancy of next. That's powerful, brother. Whew, that's some power. I told y'all. I know we gotta go. We gotta wrap this stuff up. But real quick, why is it important for the church and entrepreneurs to collectively move the community forward? Because I know that they're connected, and I've grasped this because my book on leadership, I talked about leadership from the perspective of the family, government, education, business, and the church. Those are the foundational pillars to me of the church. I mean, of the community, and I believe all of them should be connected to each other. And what's the piece that the church and entrepreneurship and businesses play in moving the communities forward?
Yeah, I think the church and entrepreneur, man, they work kind of in tandem because both are visionaries, both are developers. It's one to wherein entrepreneurs should be able to find some sense of I'm part of this group called faith-driven entrepreneurship.
Okay.
How and I'll share it with you. It's how entrepreneurs are moved or are moving because of their faith. So it becomes one of, if you look at scripture, man, and not only scripture, but you look at the time period that the scriptures were written, faith was always somewhere in the building with those who were the kings. So the kings would go out and win the spoils of war, but they would come back and they would take direction from those who were the priests. Entrepreneur, church. What is it? How is it that we can line up and say, okay, entrepreneur, you are able to go out and develop and build and garner a certain level of income and influence. As the priest, let's work together so that I can show you where we need housing. Entrepreneur, we need resources. We need, so it becomes one to wherein you develop plans based on not power, but providential outlook. So it's not about power. It becomes this providential movement that is happening to where now the church is able to be the church, but the entrepreneur is able to live out his or her faith because they're working in tandem.
I love it. What's next for Pastor Nelms and chosen generation? Which you have, and if we did, I didn't even get a chance to get into it because I know you're an author as well too.
Yeah.
And the books that you have written. So tell me what's next for you, and then what's next for the church, chosen generation.
Well, as far as me, just continue to do what I'm doing. I'm in grad school. I'm in seminary, so trying to finish up my degree and potentially probably will go on and get my doctorate, get my PhD.
All right.
Dr. Cedric Nelms, but and of course, just leaning more into my nonprofit work, man. Really getting our community resource center going. We have Image Makers Academy, which is going after high school, ages 16 to 24, going after high school young adults, in particular those young adults that are transitioning out of foster care. We call them transitional age youth. So really helping them with their we call it our SAD, skills assessment and development. So what is their skills? How do we assess that, help them to develop that, and then help them to craft two pathways, educational pathway and entrepreneurial pathway. So if they wanted to go into school, these are the suggested majors that you should major in. And should you do a 2-year or 4-year and have those connections? Or what does it look like for you to be entrepreneur? Maybe this is the career you need to go into. Maybe you need to take, just a few training kind of classes around this, because looks like you want to be an electrical engineer. Okay, let's get you connected with that. So creating those pathways through our nonprofit, our community bridge connectors resource center, our community development, get really into this land acquisition and purchasing property and commercial property. So leaning more into those things, man, and becoming a better leader, pastoring the local church. And so that moves us into Chosen G. Chosen G, man, is I'm looking for some good things from Chosen Generation. To be honest with you, man, at one time I thought Chosen Generation was going to be this big 5,000 member church. If we could just sustain 50, we'll be all right. So, just really, Chosen Generation is going to go deeper and it's going to go wider as far as living out some of the tenements that I share with you today, and becoming more enterprise, finding out what it is that people want to live into, and then help guide and push and lead them into those spaces. So that's what it's going to be for me and Chosen Generation.
I love it. I love it. Now y'all see why we had to have this man on Upwards Magazine, and we had to have this upward conversation because of just all the great things that he's doing as an entrepreneur, but then all of the great things that his church is doing to impact the community, to uplift the community, to make the community better. And as I read at the beginning about what Upwards Magazine is all about, he is that black point for what I'm talking about. It is what Upwards Magazine is comprised of. Pat, can you tell people how they can connect with you or contact you if they want to come to a service out there, of course, or if they want to watch service online, and then how they can contact you if they want you to come to their church or their organization to talk about the enterprising ideas that you have going on?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm as far as the church, we have our own website, www.choseng129.org. That's choseng129.org. And on there, typical website of where we are, where we're located, how to reach out to the church. As far as reaching out to me, I'm on Facebook. Cedric.Nelms, Nelms. I'm on Instagram at Cedi40. You can also email me at Pastor Cedric 41872, Pastor Cedric 41872 at gmail.com. And then I also got my own personal website, cjnglobal.net, cjnglobal.net.
This is a brother that is doing some great things. I'm honored to be connected with you, brother, and just the great things that you're doing. And I consider it just phenomenal at the things that you're creating and where you're taking not just yourself, but where you're taking your church and the people that you're impacting, but then the kingdom itself too. Because I know the kingdom is sitting down smiling at what they see that has been poured into you and what you're pouring into just people in general. So it's the current issue, and I got the digital print, so I got to hold it up like this, the digital print that he's on the cover of, and y'all can see, whoops, let me go back this way. Y'all can see he's on the cover of the magazine this month for July. So you can actually go to www.upwardsmagazine.strikingly.com and you can actually subscribe. We want you to subscribe to the magazine. It's some great articles in the current issue, including one on Pastor Nelms that you will enjoy, along with some other great, phenomenal people that are impacting the communities that they are part of, and doing just some things that you might not ordinarily hear about, but Upwards Magazine has chosen to shine the spotlight on them because of just the impact that they're having, great things that they're doing in their community, for their community. And it's a pleasure to bring you these individuals who who I just admire, and I see are doing great things, and it's great to be able to have these upward conversations with them. So, Pastor Nelms, I thank you again for taking time out of your schedule, speaking with
Thank
us,
you.
and giving you some great things, man. It is just phenomenal to be able to, every time that we talk, we always have these powerful conversations. We could probably go on longer, but I can't do that.
We always have a good time,
I
man.
know, right?
I
But
appreciate you allowing me into this space, brother. Thank
yeah,
you.
man, I thank you once again, and join us next month when we will have another upward conversation with our cover on the magazine. But you can always go out, you can subscribe to the magazine. You can order that, you can download the digital version of it, or you can order the physical copy of it. If you're that person that wants to have the physical copy, you can order that as well too, through us. And we'll be glad to send it out to you. But this has been another upward conversation with Upwards Magazine, with your boy, Dr. Leo McKenzie Jr., the Impact Builder. We appreciate you all, and we'll see you all next time. Have a good evening.